We've got schools voting unanimously to close across the country and do online only starting in the fall, including my own school district. Parents are terrified. Kids don't understand. I'm sure teachers are confused. What's your reaction to this?
Well, parents are really worried about, first of all, having their kids at home and missing more school, but also sending them back to school in the middle of the COVID-19 epidemic. So it's a huge quandary that every school district in America is facing today.
So what are the major concerns? Obviously, number one, there are kids out there who don't have access to the internet. There are teachers who don't have the tools they need to create a fully online curriculum.
We still have a huge digital divide in this country. We just finished a national survey that showed that literally 16 million kids aren't able to do distance learning in the United States right now because they either don't have the connectivity at home or the device or both. And nearly 400,000 teachers in the United States also cannot do distance learning because they don't have the devices or connectivity. So we're facing this massive digital divide issue, which most of all impacts low-income communities, communities of color, in a sense, the kids who need it the most. So it's a huge challenge for all of us right now in the middle of COVID-19.
I know you've been pushing Congress to make progress on this issue. What progress have you actually made?
We've made significant progress at the state level so far. For example, in California, in New York, and Texas, we're really working to see if we can close much of the digital divide before kids go back to school in a few weeks. The problem is Congress has done nothing so far. There's going to be another stimulus in a couple of weeks, we think. And if so, we need literally over a year, $6 to $10 billion to close the digital divide. And the issue is, will Congress do another stimulus? Will they include that amount of money? And will they basically care about America's kids in school? That is the dilemma we're facing right now.
So here's my question, and I think a lot of parents are asking this question. Is this going to be another year of learning lost for my children?
This is a really tough issue in terms of learning loss, because there's no question that your kid learns better when they're in school. Also, they are emotionally and socially happier when they're in school. There's so much that you do get from that in-school experience that we all grew up with, that as the father of four, you have 4 kids, I understand what a big deal this is. That said, you really care about your kids' health and safety too. And right now, our kids are at serious health risk if they're back to school. So you're in this major dilemma as a parent, as a principal, as a school. And the challenge is, will we have somewhat of a hybrid model? Will we have the situation that Los Angeles and San Diego just announced yesterday, where all kids are going to be doing distance learning in the fall? That's the big question. But the bottom line is distance learning is not as good as in person, but it's what we're stuck with for the short-term future at least.
It also involves, if you have the resources, a lot of access to technology, a lot of screen time, a lot of Zoom calls. How concerned should we be about the long-term impact of that exposure to technology on our children who, to be fair, it's sort of like a loss of digital innocence. We wouldn't have given them this access to technology for years.
This really is a loss of digital innocence. That's absolutely correct. And the truth is, all of the common sense guidelines that we've had for years about screen time have sort of gone out of the window in COVID-19, because you want your kids to be able to do distance learning. You want them to be able to attend school, even if it's on a Zoom screen. But you also need them to get outside and play and be normal, healthy kids and not sit in front of a screen for 8 hours a day. So all of that loss of digital innocence is weighing on parents, on schools. It's a big challenge. That said, it's the most important challenge in many ways that our country is facing, and we need real leadership, first of all at the national level, but also at the state and local level.
Do you think this exposure to technology earlier than we would have liked is going to harm them in any way, and hold back their learning over the longer term?
I think that the exposure to technology in and of itself is a challenge, but I think we can get through that, and we sort of have to under the COVID-19 circumstances. I think the bigger issue is learning loss, particularly in lower income school districts that have fewer resources, and where the parents oftentimes are essential workers who aren't able to stay at home and help their kids learn and turn on the machine, the computer, and it's just a really challenging time. And learning loss was real this spring. Now you're going into the fall when many kids are going to be working only in a distance learning environment. And there's also the social emotional challenges. So and you're not getting PE, you're not getting art class, you're not getting all the things that make school really important for kids. So we are facing a big challenge, and all of us need to pitch in. The private sector has a huge role to play here too, because the big telephone providers like Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile have to step up with connectivity. And then folks like Google and Apple who provide devices also have to step up. Everyone needs to do their best right now to help America's kids in school.
What are some tips for parents to help us navigate this, indefinite period of time?
I think there are several things that a parent can do. First of all, establish and have normal routines for your kids so they get used to a daily schedule. They understand what the routine is going to be if they're doing distance learning from home. I think the second thing is be involved in your kids' learning, maybe even more than you would normally be if they were doing school the way we're all accustomed to. And be more connected to their teachers and the principal, and find out how you can help them with their homework if they're older. If their kids are younger in sort of the kindergarten through third grade, that's a really tough time to be in front of the screen for that long. So find ways to work with your kid and talk with your kid about that. And I think the third one is help find good extracurricular activities. You're not getting PE, you're not getting sports, you're not going to have music and art. So try to be creative in that way. We created wideopenschool.org, this massive platform for parents in schools during the pandemic. It's been very popular. And a lot of the activities and information we have there is designed sort of for when you're not actually doing your schoolwork, but you need to stay engaged. This is a huge challenge as a parent. I'm feeling it. My wife's feeling it. I'm sure you're feeling it, Emily, as a mom. These are just really tough times.
Meantime, Jim, you've been hugely influential in this Stop Hate for Profit campaign and ongoing Facebook boycott. You've got hundreds of advertisers who've now pulled advertising from the platform. How much longer do you think this is going to last? I know you've been calling for this to go global.
The Stop Hate for Profit campaign has been an enormous success thus far, exceeding even my wildest expectations, and that's saying quite a bit. We think it's going to go on now for the foreseeable future. I mean, we've met with Facebook. We asked them to make major changes on the platform that would prevent the amplification of hate speech and racism and misinformation, which helps undermine our civic discourse and democratic norms. And quite honestly, it fell on deaf ears. So we expect that the advertisers, there are now more than 1,000 advertisers who've joined this boycott, will stay with us. We expect that other organizations here and around the world are going to join in. The campaign for Stop Hate for Profit is definitely going global. And the truth is, it's about our democracy. It's about the best interests of our society. And so the response from advertisers and from the general public has been extraordinarily gratifying. And Stop Hate for Profit is going to go on until we see fundamental changes on the Facebook and Instagram platforms.
So are advertisers saying that they're going to do this beyond July, and how much longer? How far beyond?
We are talking to advertisers right now about extending the pause in their advertising on Facebook. Some of them have already agreed to do it for many months through the end of the year, for example, and others are in different points of the discussion. Here we are, we're basically about 2.5 to 3 weeks away from the end of July, and we are asking Facebook to make major changes that they have been unwilling to do thus far. So we expect that a lot of the advertisers will stay with us, but we also think that the broader public pressure that has supported Stop Hate for Profit will be with us. And that is good, because at the end of the day, it's our democracy and our civic discourse that's at stake, and we need the support of everybody to help make these changes.
Have you talked to Mark Zuckerberg or Sheryl Sandberg personally about any of this?
I have not had a personal conversation with them in the past few weeks. I have certainly talked with them about these issues in the past. And again, this is not a personal attack on them. This is an attack on this is a campaign against the company and their practices. We've tried not to make it a personal attack, but we are insisting that the folks at the very top of that company make these changes in the best interest of our kids and our families and our democracy.
Obviously, the recent post by President Trump threatening violence on the American people are sort of the center of this controversy. How much does this campaign have to do with Facebook's stance on that versus everything else? Like, is it about Trump or is it about something else?
We have been very clear that this is a nonpartisan campaign. One of the reasons that Common Sense Media has been so successful as an organization over the past 15 years is because we are genuinely nonpartisan. So this is not about Donald Trump or one party or the other. This is about a healthy, respectable civic discourse, about eliminating the amplification of hate speech and racism and white supremacy in our society, and about restoring democratic norms. If that impacts one politician or another, so be it. But this is a nonpartisan campaign. This is about the best interests of our democracy and, quite honestly, the best interests of our kids' future, just like our discussion about COVID-19 in schools was about. At the end of the day, the people who will benefit the most from these efforts are our kids, and that's the way it should be.
But do you want Facebook to take down those Trump posts? What are the changes that you want Facebook to make?
We are very clear with Facebook that they should not be putting up hate speech or conspiracy theories or misinformation that comes out of the words of any organization or individual. So if that's the President of the United States, then they should be taking them down as well, or making clearly label them as false or defamatory or whatever. But this is not about an individual politician or party. It's about our democracy, and it's about the quality of our civic discourse. So yes, that's up to them to do something. And you've seen other companies step up and start to rein in some of the excesses that we've seen from politicians in this country. But it's really important that we see this as a nonpartisan effort, because democracy at the end of the day is a nonpartisan institution, and that's what we want.